Hello everyone to our second live revision session that is basically focusing on the drafting of substantive procedures and test of controls mainly. Okay, these are the areas that we target and are going to cover a substantial portion of your examination. Okay, now the examination basically focuses on having test of controls tested in section A and section B both, and substantive procedure being at least 20 to 30 marks in the exam. So we see that these topics are the examiner's favorite. And if you have a good grip on the drafting techniques, if you have a very good grip on the analysis of the question, the scenarios, it would help you a lot in the examination. One common mistake everyone makes is when they talk about substantive procedures, when they talk about test of controls, is that people tend to memorize test of controls or substantive procedures. Now, that is the wrong technique to do. Why? Now, every scenario, every question has a unique pattern. Okay. So if you are memorizing substantive procedure test of controls, it would result in an inadequate or inefficient answer in the exam. Because when the examiner sees that a student is unable to relate with the particular scenario given, they are very keen of it. They are examining you for a very big long time now. So they understand that you have memorized stuff. So they are not testing your memory there. They're testing your application skills on how would you react to a situation in audit in practical life. So the main ideology, the main thing I recommend everyone is to understand the strategy to how to develop an answer. What question should you ask yourself when you're drafting an answer? Now, asking the questions is the first step of analyzing and drafting an answer. And when you're drafting an answer and your knowledge, they're two separate things. Okay. Now, if you have a knowledge of a particular area, that's good enough. But normally, what happens is that people have very good knowledge, but they're not able to convey their message. If you're not able to convey your message, at the end of the day, the examiner is getting only your transcript. They don't know you personally. Okay, me being a teacher, if you are under my guidance, I am basically interacting on daily basis for the next 3 months or 2 months, whatever the time is. Okay, so if I'm interacting with you, I understand your mentality, I understand that you have knowledge, but the examiner is just looking at a piece of paper. So if you are not able to convey your ideas onto the answer script, that means you are having a failure in the examination. So how can we do that? We can do it only by drafting. Write down your answers, analyze what the points can be. You can get it checked by a teacher or even read the answer examiner has given you, compare with it. Now, exactly the answers given in Kaplan or BPP cannot be replicated. Obviously, they are taken under circumstances where there are no time limits, no restraints, there are multiple resources available to them. But if you have, let's say, if the answer is of 20 marks, you have, if the examiner has given 10 pointers, if you have 6 to 7 points similar to the examiner, that means you will get a good grade, that you can get a good grade. The main idea is that you have to make sure that every point written is giving the correct indication that you know about what is going on in the particular scenario. So the main thing is asking yourself the questions, memorizing the strategy to write an answer, not directly the answer. Okay. So if you have this habit of developing the strategy, no passage will even bother you a lot. Okay. So let's begin and I'll show you, I will tell you the strategy as well, how to write an answer, and we'll apply it as well in this particular practice session only. Now, let's read the first question. The first question gives us what? The first question tells us that ISA 315 revised identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement states that entity system of internal controls consists of 5 components: control environment, the entity risk assessment process, the entity process to monitor systems of internal controls, and information system and communication and control activities. Yes, these are the 5 things. Using the table below, describe the 5 components of entity system of internal controls. We do not have to refer to the scenario here. Now, why did I read the questions first? Every time you're attempting a past paper, you're attempting a particular paper, attempting a question, read the question first. Why? It will give your mindset a direction that what do we have to find. Now here we don't need the passage. So if you're reading the passage first and coming to this question, you are basically wasting your time, because you have read the passage in general terminologies, you have taken the intakes of the passage. Now you're drafting this answer. This is basically a 5 marker. So if we take a 5 marker takes us approximately 7 to 8 minutes. After 7 to 8 minutes, when you read the second particular passage, when you read the second question, the second part of the question, you start to blank away. your memory fades eventually because you're more focused on writing the first answer. So it wastes a lot of time. Now you have to go again and read the passage, again draft points, identify points, and then write the answer. So it will take a lot of time and effort from your side. So what should we do is we should just first read the questions, see if it relates to a scenario or not. If it does not, answer that first, then go to the scenario with the relevant questions that we have to answer. Okay. Now, first, what is control environment? Now, when we talk about control environment, what are we talking about? Control environment basically tells us the system that we are operating in or the company is operating in. Okay, environment doesn't mean that how does the boss deal with the employee. It specifically doesn't mean that. Environment means what is the corporate governance system in the organization. Are there hierarchies present and or not? What is the attitude towards risk in the company? What is the attitude toward controls and deficiencies in the company? Is the senior management very prone towards correcting mistakes or identifying variances in their particular systems, or they are just loosely just looking at the systems and analyzing, yes, this is correct, there is a small mistake, just leave it aside, etc., etc. So if you are going into, let's just take a general example. If you're going into a room, you analyze the environment, right? Which area is basically the stronger party, which person is basically a stricter side on the particular rules and regulations. Even if a teacher is taken into account, when you talk to a teacher, you are seeing that is he strict towards the rule, is he lenient, will he give us room or not, etc., etc. So the analysis part basically gives you the indication of the mindset of the management. Okay, the mindset of the management, the systems that they have derived from the mindset that they have, are they following it or not? This is control environment for you. Next, entities risk assessment process. Now, risk assessment process basically indicates towards how is the management working towards identifying the potential risk in the systems, and are they basically analyzing all potential outcomes, all potential systems, all potential resources that they have, that might create a risk of material misstatements in the financial statements, that might create a risk of having a fraud, a risk of any contamination, a risk of any kind of natural hazard within their organization or not. If the risk assessment process is weak, what will happen? If the risk assessment process is weak, that means the company is not able to mitigate the risk or apply controls adequately. If no controls are applied, that means there is a higher chance of misstatement in the financial statements. So a higher risk in the material misstatement in the financial statements result in a higher audit risk. When there is a high audit risk, the auditor might not take the particular engagement in their consideration. They might not take the engagement, or if they take the engagement, also they have to work very promptly, very vigilantly, because there are multiple errors in it. So higher misstatements result to a higher misstatements result to a modified audit opinion. So modified audit opinion basically reflects a bad reputation of the company as well. So we have to be very careful that a small area of the control system is going to impact the audit significantly. If from perspective of the auditor, I am the auditor, I will go and see whether the management is very keen towards the particular internal control systems. They are very keen towards risk assessment. So if they're not vigilant about the first system, the first step, that is the risk identification. Now I will basically have an idea that yes, they are not very careful about it. They are not very prone towards it. They're not very vigilant about it. So the control systems are going to be weaker. If the control system seems to be weaker to me, now I will try to obtain audit evidence by my own. I will not rely on the management or their systems on a higher side. I will just see the data and I will try to identify and obtain audit evidence from my own activities or procedures. Okay. Next thing is entities process to monitor the systems of internal controls. Now, if the systems are to be analyzed or systems are to be looked at here, how well is the monitoring system working here? Are they assessing the particular results of the control they have implemented or not? If a company is operating, okay, if a company is operating, let's say I see in a chemical factory. In a chemical factory, we all know that water leakage is a very highly volatile situation, highly impactful situation for us. If there is a water leakage, that means it could result in what? It could result in a higher contamination, even a blast. Okay. Now, if the particular management has seen that there is a water leakage, they have basically called up the people, the mechanics, and they have covered it up. They have rectified the problem. Now, are they checking again and again on a weekly basis or a monthly basis that the leak has not opened up again or not? Are they, or are they not? If they are, that is good. That is good. That means basically they are vigilant about any potential more misstatements or errors that can occur, or any kind of higher risk that can occur in the future. And if they are not, basically, then we can see that they're not very active in nature. They are not very prone towards the working systems. They are not trying to work back the system that they have. Okay, if there is a risk of, in talking about audit terms, if there is a risk of fraud, or we identify a fraud, what is the first practice we want the management to do? If you identify a fraud, you rectify the fraud, you apply controls there, and you check again and again that whether the fraud or the controls that are there are working adequately or not, and the fraud risk is not getting increased again or not. If you're not checking for that, that means you are basically, you're loser on your side. When you're loser on your end, you give an opportunity to the other side. When you give an opportunity to the other side, they will capitalize it. They will take advantage of it. So monitoring is a very key system that we have to be very vigilant about, that many people are not vigilant about. Monitoring also focuses on changing of passwords. If you identify some kind of indication, some kind of hints that the controls that are applied might not mitigate the risk, so you have a chance to identify the risk early on and mitigate the risk early on as well. Let's say if a password is there applied on organization computerized systems, so if we see that many people can easily access the password, this is a hint that there might be a future fraud. There is an opportunity created that people might think that we are not keeping a system safe enough. So if you are monitoring the systems, you can easily identify this deficiency and change the password on a regular basis. This will result in what? This will result in a chance to mitigate the risk that we are facing. Okay. Now moving on towards information system and communication. This basically focuses on that whether we have a system that initiates, records, and gives us an output, or input process output system is made efficient enough that the misstatements or errors, if tried to be input, can be cached. If there is any process override maintained, we have exception report there. If there is any kind of contamination between the process from the input process to output, that is highlighted towards the system. Okay, so input, record, process, and output, all of these four things are established adequately or not. And now if I talk to you, or if I tell you that we have a system developed, now let's say if I see that there is a risk a student might fail, what would I do is I would conduct multiple sessions, right? I would organize a system through which I can check the answers of the student through online systems, right? So if I am not communicating this to a student, will the particular information system be effective? No, obviously it won't be. So if I see that my particular system is working efficiently, effectively, I have to make sure that it is communicated effectively and efficiently as well. Communication is the key where you are going to spread the word alongside your organization. If you're not communicating effectively, you are not spreading the word that the control is applied and how does it work. If the people don't know how does it work, they are not going to follow it. It will be difficult for them, and no one likes a difficulty in the longer run, right? So they are going to just skip it up. If they're skipping it, that at the end of the day, what will happen is it will increase the liabilities. The overall systems are going to collapse. Okay. And the last thing, that is control activities. Control activities say what? Control activities basically say that it includes controls which are designed to ensure proper application. Now, if you're having policies, if you're having systems applied, we have to ensure that the activities that are there are in adequate nature, are designed in a way that they are mitigating the risk. They are internally sufficient enough to mitigate the potential risk or do not create opportunities for any other person. So our objective will be that implementing systems in the organization completely through general controls, IT controls, in a way that they are not creating loopholes for the people. They are sealing the loopholes so that people do not override the controls. Okay. Authorization, approval, segregation of duties, reconciliations, these all are systems through which we can basically apply a control activity throughout the organization through general controls, not specific ones. Specific ones are already very complex in nature, are there in most of scenarios, most of the companies, but some of them are that are general controls are missed out by the management. Okay, so this is just a knowledge-based question. The points I've given you can be easily written into a 6 mark, 7 mark answer. These all will require 5 marks. So don't give a lot of time to it. Just you have to do what is read the particular control environment. So once you read the environment, all the pointers are there, and it will be easily just a copy paste answer for you guys. Okay. Now moving towards question number B, part B. That is the main part for us. That is of 15 marks. Now, if you're Looking at the question, it is saying 15 marks. Now 15 marks, it is nothing, a very easy question. What you have to understand is the pattern of writing the answer. So 1 mark for deficiency, 1 mark for recommendation, 1 mark for test of controls, and 5 pointers. So 15 is the total answer that we have. Okay. Now, before we jump into the question, before we jump into the passage, how do we write a question? How do we write an answer on control deficiency, control recommendation, and test of controls? What is the pattern of writing an answer? Now, that's what we have to see. That is the key here. Now, if I see a deficiency, for deficiency, I can easily see. Let's just write something. If I see a deficiency, what is my ideology here? How to write an answer? What would be my ideology here? First of all, I will copy the problem statement from the passage. First, identify the problem. And what is the examiner telling you in the passage that this is the problem that we are facing, or this is the problem that is there? Mostly it is highlighted in the passage. Next, explain why is it a problem. Now, let's say I am saying that there are no security cameras. So this is just a statement that you have copied from the passage. Now you have to explain the examiner that why is no security cameras a problem. Okay. Now, if you are giving a problem, now let's say I tell you that a problem is no security cameras. So normally, if someone tells you that your car's tire is flat, okay, they will tell you, okay, this is a problem statement. So why is it a problem? If a car's tire is flat, that means basically it will cause a difficulty in traveling. What could be the possible impact of that? The possible impact will be that your car might crash. So without the impact, your deficiency is incomplete. If there is a problem is basically a risk. Why is it a risk? If there is a risk and it has no impact, that means we are not basically going to take it seriously. So why should the examiner take your answer seriously if you're not giving the impact? So impact is one part of it. So writing the impact is of immense importance. So this will gain you 1 mark. A good efficiency has a problem statement. Then why is it a problem? Explain that, and then what will be the impact of the problem that we are seeing. Next step is your particular recommendation. Now, common things people do here in recommendation is, first of all, they are not able to interpret how to derive a recommendation, how to tell them a recommendation. Now, first of all, if you want to give a recommendation, okay, if a student comes to me and I have to give them a recommendation, what will I basically see? First of all, I'll hear them out. I will identify the risk, the problem. Okay, if a student comes in and tells me that he or she is attempting, let's say, F8 exam, and they are not preparing as of, let's say, they're not studying as yet, they are not started as yet. So this is a problem statement. What will be the risk here? Risk here will be that they might fail the exam. Okay. Now, if I want to recommend them something, I have to keep in mind that the risk is here is the risk here is that they might fail the exam. What will be my objective here? My objective will be to give them a recommendation to pass the exam. So identify the risk, then think of what will be the objective of the control you are recommending. Okay, the objective basically says that if, let's say, the risk is they might fail the exam, my objective, the control I'm going to recommend, should achieve the objective that the student should pass the exam. Okay, now if I am trying to give the particular person a recommendation, I have identified the control objective that now I want to make them pass the exam. So how will I pass the exam is the recommendation I should give them. So recommendation should be drive in this way that next step will be, if you know the objective, if you know the end goal, you can basically try to give them a recommendation that will achieve the end goal. So how to achieve the objective? this should be your recommendation. This should be the main part of the recommendation. So there are steps to driving a particular answer. Okay. Now let's say if a person tells me that there are no security cameras, okay, this is a problem statement. What will be the risk? There is a higher chance of theft. The risk is there is a higher chance of theft. What will be my objective here? My objective will be that I have to lower the chance of theft. So how will I achieve this objective? I will implement a system where security cameras are implemented and monitored by a security guard. So you see, there is a step-by-step driving force that I have to understand here. Okay. So one leads to another, another leads to third party. Now, initially, this will be a problem for you that you might not be able to get up points. It might take a lot of time, but once you get the skill under your grip, once you adapt this pattern, it will be a very speedy process and a very good answer can be developed by this particular pattern. I will tell you how as well. When we are going to see this particular question, we are going to see this application as well. Now, third part is control, test of control, TOC. Now, test of control is basically whether the objective that I have identified is the control fulfilling my objective or not. Okay, is the control that I have recommended fulfilling the objective that I have thought it to be? So, if I have a camera implemented, does it basically mitigate the risk or reduce the risk of theft in the particular room or not? That is what test of control will be. So the control I have recommended, you are just going to try to check whether it is fulfilling the objective or not. So check whether control is fulfilling the objective or not. Okay. So this will basically give you a very good pattern of writing the answer. So if you adopt this, it will be very beneficial for you. So now let's go towards the passage and read the passage. Okay. The first area is payroll. Now payroll is there here. What we are telling is, let's read the passage. The company employs 210 staff in its factory who are paid only a weekly basis by bank transfer. So they are paid on weekly basis by bank transfer. The factory staff have key cards and are required to swipe it in and out at the beginning and at the end of the shifts. Okay, this is a process that they have told you. The control that there is placed. The process is supervised. Okay, hours worked by employee are recorded electronically using the key card system, which is linked to the payroll system. Each week, the hours worked are automatically transferred to the payroll system. As a process, now look, the examiner will give you the hint automatically. As the process is automated, no checks over this transfer are performed. They have highlighted the deficiency, the problem statement for you guys. Now, first identify the problem. We have done that. Now, in the answer statement, in the answer statement, you're going to do what? You're going to just copy paste this particular area. That at the end of each week, we have, or the each week the hours worked are automatically transferred from the key card to the payroll systems. Okay, and there is no checking done in the particular systems. Now, this is the problem. Now, why is it a problem? That is the second step that we have to go for. Now, if there are no checks performed, the transfer of hours work from the keycard system to the payroll system or payroll records might have some hours that are recorded on erroneous basis. Okay, there might be systems where someone is not supervising and the hours worked are overstated there, right? And this could lead to what? This could lead to an overpayment of particular payroll. Okay, so the problem is that the risk, what is the risk here? The problem state, why is it a problem? The problem is basically might overstate hours. And what will be the impact? Impact will be overpayment of payroll. Overpayment of payroll here. And also result in what? It could also result in employee goodwill loss, or the company's systems being under questioning, that the company is not able to basically control the payments that are to be made. The objective here is the objective here is that we have to pay the person the amount that they deserve. Okay. Now the objective here will be that we have to pay the amount the person deserves. The risk is that we might underpay or overpay the employee. Okay. Mainly for the company, it is the both sides are a problematic situation for us. So we might underpay or overpay the computerized system through the computerized system to the employee. So the risk is under overpayment. The objective is that we should basically pay the correct amount to the correct person that they deserve. I've identified the objective. Now, how can I make sure that my objective is achieved here? Now, if I'm transferring my hours from the key card to the payroll system, if I assign a senior person, let's say the production manager, that please, you are the person who is going to check that the system that is inputting the pay, or they went to a payroll department, or the data that is input from the key card to the payroll systems is monitored by you. You're going to check it. If a senior official who is the manager of the department is checking the hours worked by the employees, can there be a particular system that the over underpayment can be rectified here? Right? So if I assign a person this job that you are going to check it, this will suffice the objective that I am paying the correct amount to the correct person. Okay, the people are getting the money that they deserve. So one person is checking, making sure this happens, and they can make sure that this is done by a signature, that we have indication that the particular person has checked the particular system. So if data transfer is monitored by a senior, he will sign it, and we can see that yes, he has done his work. So this can be computerized, the computerized system checking recommendation for us. Now, how will I test my control? My testing can be done by how? What was the question here? The question was that is my control basically being implemented, or is it fulfilling the objective or not? So here I will do what? I will take a sample of the payroll of an employee. Okay. And I will check whether the particular system has a signature or any indication of senior official being checking the particular payroll system before it is finalized. So if he's checking it, there will be a signature, and I can basically be confident that yes, the control implemented is being run by the system. They are not overriding it, they're not missing it out, and this will ensure that my objective is achieved here. So I believe that this particular layout is in implementation is more easier for you guys. So if you know what to ask, it will help you in basically writing the answer and how to write it. Okay. Now moving forward to the second area, the second paragraph. What does it say? Here, they're saying that payroll is run on a weekly basis. Okay, it is run on a weekly basis, and the system automatically calculates the wage to be paid. On sample basis, a payroll clerk checks gross to net payment calculation and compares these systems generated balances to ensure that accuracy of the payroll system is there. If any changes to the payroll data are required, the payroll clerk makes the amendment there. An edit report of any amended is produced weekly and not reviewed. Now I see multiple problems here. What are the multiple problems? First of all, if a particular calculation is done, it should be basically done under the supervision of a senior manager and a key checking that is basically of payroll systems. So if a system is checking the payroll transactions, a senior manager should basically check them, not the clerk. Clerk is there to make the transactions. Okay, make the transactions. The senior are there to check the transactions. So a senior should be checking the particular transactions. Okay. Second thing, that the data is there, and anyone can amend it. Now anyone has the ability to amend the payroll records. Anyone can review and change the transactions. So the payrolls can be amended by anyone. If the payroll clerk can change it, it is not a good thing. Only specific people should be allowed to amend the computerized systems or override the computerized systems, right? So this is not a good practice that is conducted. This is giving the opportunity to a person to manipulate the records. And last but not the least, the amended records are also not checked. So this is a complete disaster, that if someone comes in and they change his salary from 1,000 to 10,000, they can do it, and I'm not checking it even. So a clear opportunity for a fraud is there. So what can be the risk here? What can I write is, first of all, I'll copy paste this particular pointers. First point will be that the clerk is checking the transactions, not the senior manager. So this indicates what? This creates a risk, that this creates a problem. Why is it a problem? That the clerk might not have the authority to check the particular transactions. He doesn't have the understanding of the systems or the particular company's organization systems or policies that a senior manager should, and he doesn't have the authority to pass their transactions on. Second point, second problem, that anyone can amend the systems. If anyone can amend the systems, there is a higher chance of or higher risk of fraud here. This would lead to over or underpayments according to people's own wishes. They might inflate the payment or deflate the payment of their friends or enemies, right? If I have the access to basically pay someone higher, I will pay my friend higher. This is the thing, right? So I should not give this particular opportunity to the other party. Now, last thing, if amendments are made, they should be checked by a senior official. The amendments made should be reviewed by a senior official at all times. Any amendment made should be basically created by or highlighted by exception report, a report of amendments, and should be authorized by or signed by or checked by a senior official on which his signature should be present. So that basically at the end of the day, when an amendment has been made and it comes under scrutiny, we know that which person has done the particular transaction. Okay, so we have highlighted 2 to 3 points here. Now, what can be the recommendation here? So for recommendation, the risk is that team might overpay or underpay a person depending on the needs. First of all, an unauthorized, unexperienced person is checking these things, checking the gross to net payments. Okay, so recommendation should be or objective should be that a person who has a qualification to check this particular transaction should check the transaction. So a senior official should be checking the transactions from gross to net payment so that there is no mistakes in the particular documents. Now, if a person is checking the payroll or the employee salaries, there are taxations involved. There are multiple other external departments involved. If the payment is miscalculated for those departments, at the end of the day, they will hold the company accountable and we will be penalized for it, right? So we have to make sure that these things are on point. So senior should check them and sign them. Next thing, that anyone can amend the systems. So if anyone can amend the system, there is a risk of fraud here. If there is a risk of fraud, what is our objective here? Our objective is to mitigate the risk of fraud, to reduce the risk of fraud, to eliminate the risk of fraud. So how can I eliminate the risk of fraud? In this situation, I will tell the particular company that please go give only authorized people the access to amend the records. Okay. And if they're amending a record, the report should be created and report should be reviewed by a senior official and signed by them. So this will basically mitigate the risk of fraud and error. Okay. Now, if I want to check this control system, if I want to check this system, first of all, I will do what is I will check by multiple measures. If I am giving a senior the responsibility to calculate the gross to net payment or check the gross to net payment, then he will sign the documents that yes, he has checked it before it goes forward towards the payment. Second thing, if there is a amendment problem that I had, so I will recommend them to apply passwords and give only authorized people the access to the system. So if I'm giving authorized people the access to the systems, now how can I check this? If let's say, like, I'll give you a very good example that you will remember. If you have applied a password, if you have applied a password on your phone, what we normally do is, or a fingerprint is a good example. If you applied a fingerprint on your phone, what you do is you try to ask your brother, sister, mother to basically try a fingerprint there and see whether the phone unlocks or not, right? So here we can do that as well. That is a CAD system. So we will give a dummy data. We will try to enter the particular system through a person's ID that is not authorized to enter the system. This will lead into what? This will lead us to get a chance to check the system that we are working accurately. The system is completely achieving the objective that we wanted to achieve. And last but not least, the point that is not reviewed. So review it by a senior official, sign it. So signature can be a thing that we can check. So we can take a sample of the transactions and check whether it is reviewed and authorized by a senior official and their signature is present in the transactions. So with this, we can basically see a good answer being developed. So I can assure you, if you follow this pattern, this will give you these 2 to 3 points are giving you 6 to 8 points or 9 points, 9 marks basically. By points, I mean marks. So 9 marks can be achieved easily by 2 paragraphs. So there are at least in a 5 marker answer, that means by 5 pointers. If you have to take 5 pointers, there are going to be 7 to 8 points at least present in the particular passage. It is just your thinking that will make the change. Now, next thing, non-current assets. Non-current assets is a area that we have to see next. Okay, let's see. Delhi company has a head office and 10 factories with a warehouse included at the factory each. The company has internal audit department. So look, if there is an internal audit department, this is a good sign of a company. Now I will be basically eager to rely on the company's controls. I will be basically having a relief that yes, at least there is an internal audit department that is checking the controls, identifying the risk, and assessing the risk. So this basically does not mainly focus on what we can say is uh, risk mitigation a lot, but this basically refers to a deterrence of the risk. Now, if I see a security guard in front of a bank, I will think twice before robbing the bank. So very unconventional example, but an example that we can see or we can basically refer to. Okay, now here what they are telling us is that internal audit department is there, which carries out a comparison between all the assets recorded on the non-current asset register to those physical present in each of Delhi company's 21 sites. The year's program to visit, which has been planned and carried out on the same basis of previous year, means that 30 September 2005, internal audit will only have completed this comparison at one factory and one warehouse. Okay. Now, a physical verification is being conducted on the asset. Okay. One thing is the problem that we are physically verifying the assets on the same date as of last year. So does this ring a bell in your mind that if I tell you on the 30th of January, I will check your transactions, and you know that on 30th January you will be checking your transactions. So will you not basically try to cover your things up? If I say on 30th of January, the records say we have 10 cards, I want to see 10 cards. I will go and check whether physically 10 cards are there or not. So you'll borrow a car, you come up with a car, and you will just place it there for a day or two, so that a physical inspection is done adequately or not, right? So here, what the problem I see is, first of all, that the physical verification is pre-announced, is done on a specific date, and we know that this is going to be done, and that also we are doing in only one of the factory and one of the warehouses. We have 10 of them. So this is a problem that I can see here. Okay, if I am basically seeing this, if I'm physically seeing this, if I'm seeing this, what is the problem here? The problem is that the particular system, the particular opportunity is given to the particular employees that they are going to cover it up, and they have a chance to cover it up. Okay, verification is not done adequately in here. There is a control applied, but the test is incomplete in nature. Okay, so we have 10 warehouses and a head office, and we're checking one of them. So that means incomplete testing of my system, incomplete verification of systems. So this is a big problem for us. Now, what is the main issue? If the non-current asset register is not physically verified, if we see this situation, okay, if the non-current asset register is not physically verified, but what will happen is that we might have a asset that is not present physically, and it is in the particular books. That is a risk. Okay, next thing, that the asset might not be in a good condition, right? If we are not physically verifying the asset might be a scrap car that we have weighted at, or we have recorded at a full cost. So if it is recorded on the full cost, that means basically now we are not going to be having a correct valuation of the asset. This is also a risk, right? So obsolescence is a risk here. The risk is misappropriation of assets. This is a big risk in the particular company, and there are multiple factories there, multiple offsite warehouses or head offices. So this is a big problem for the company. So this is the risk and the particular impact of it. This will result in a high chance of fraud and higher chance of miscalculation of assets value, and this will result in a long-term loss for the company. Now, what should be the control that I will give them? What should be the recommendation I should give them? The recommendation should be to set policies that we are comparing the complete assets with last year. We are developing a strategy that means we are having internal audit, review the program to visit and assess all the particular areas that are there. If they need, they can hire more people. If they need, they can go for external sources as well. They can take up external people, temporary staff. They can hire a company to basically physically verify the assets on the 21 sites that they have and visit them shortly prior to the year end. If we are checking them on unnoticed or giving them not giving them an ultimatum, just visiting them by surprise, we can surely check whether the particular systems or transactions are there or the assets are there in physical nature. Okay. Now during visits also, assets which cannot be located should be investigated also. Okay. And if they are investigated, fully identify where are they, why are they not there, and if they are not there, track them for the particular location and see whether they are there possibly or not. And if someone has taken them, see why they have taken them and what was the deficiency in the control. Okay. Now, if I want to check this control, I am setting a policy here. If I'm setting a policy, what can I do is I can discuss it with the internal audit department manager or a particular person from the internal audit department, ask with him that what do they do with this policy? How did they implement this policy? Review the minutes of the board meeting where the policy is discussed with the particular internal audit department. Review the records of physical verification that were the complete assets of 21 sites verified or not. Okay, compare them with last year that where there was no policy, and if there is substantial change, then yes, we are on the right path. If we are seeing that we are verifying the particular assets, the value will also change, where we will be identifying obsolete inventory. If you identify obsolete inventory, their value should be written off. If it is written off, then it means it is reasonable in nature, and the signature will be there by the particular party who is checking the assets physically. So these all gives an indication that we are on the right path. Our controls are being implemented by the internal audit department. Okay. Now moving forward, during the year, financial controller changed the company's capitalization accounting policy. Okay, a policy has been changed here. So a complex area for many people. Now, if a policy is changed, what can be the risk here? Now think, what can be the risk here? The risk can be that if I am having capitalization policy basically focuses on what? It focuses on increasing the assets value, decreasing expenses. So here our profit will increase and our assets value will increase as well. Our expenses will decrease, right? And vice versa can be there as well. If the policy is against the capitalization, it will reduce the assets value and reduce the profit as well, right? So we have to be careful in this area. Now what they have done is, in accordance with the revised policy, only items of capital nature exceeding amount of 20,000 are accounted as additions to non-current assets in statement of financial position. Any non-current asset purchased below 20,000 were written off to the statement of profit and loss as an expense. This is a crucial thing. This is a very complicated accounting treatment that people might not understand. Okay, if we are changing a policy during the year, we are copying this first paragraph automatically. Now, it is a normal practice or not, we don't know that yet. It might be a policy for the company for last year. The industry might do this normally, but this seems to be a very vague type of treatment here. Okay, if this particular policy is there in the organization, should it be basically reviewed or it should be discussed in the board of directors or approved by the board of directors? Now here we are not talking about the policy itself. We are talking about the environment of the organization. We are talking about the controls of the organization to implement this policy. If a policy is changing, it should be discussed by the board of directors. It should be discussed by the management, and minutes of the meeting will give us the evidence for that, right? The threshold here is very high. Look, for a company, $20,000 can be a substantial amount. A asset can be there for non-current assets, so threshold seems to be very high. Now, this could result in a higher expense. If you're writing off 20,000 worth of particular asset, it could result in a higher expense in a lower profit and understate property, plant, and equipment. So the risk is that we might not have approved the transaction. The threshold could be too high. That could result in a lower profit and lower asset as well. Now, what can be the recommendation? First of all, any significant change in policy should be discussed, approved by the board of directors, and recorded and communicated to all levels. Okay, so that everyone is aware of this particular system. The capitalization limit should be shorter. What is the capitalization? Capitalization is basically addition in the value of an asset. So 20,000 expenditure can basically result in the addition of the value of the asset. A lower amount, a lower threshold should be set basically where the particular capitalization limit should be kept so that the profitability and assets are not affected substantially. Or we can recommend these controls. This will basically achieve our objective of what? Basically capitalizing the right cost and expensing the right cost. Now, If we are giving a recommendation that review the controls, or we are saying board minutes should be there, so review the board minutes. Review the board minutes, you will get evidence whether the particular transaction or particular change was approved or not. Then, if we are recommending that the amount should be lower, how much lower? It should be discussed with the finance director that what is the amount that is they are setting or considering to set if we are recommending them a lower amount to be set. Okay, so this is the area that we can target them as a test of controls. Okay, so test can be just checking whether the particular recommendation that you have given is being implemented and is it achieving the objective or not. Now, next thing, bank and cash systems. Now, bank and cash system, what does it say? Bank and cash system says basically that on a weekly basis, a bank payment list is generated for supplier payments. The finance director reviews the total amount of the bank payment list and authorizes it. The finance director reviews the total amount of bank payment and list and authorizes it. The finance director then passes it to the financial controller who processes the payments. Now, see one thing here, a deficiency. Now, if a list of people are given to the finance director and he has to make the payments, the finance director reviews the total amount only. He is reviewing the total amounts only. He is not taking the breakup of the list and he is not checking the individual balances of people. He is just looking at the totals of the amount. So if he is looking at the totals of the amount, what will happen is there might be fraudulent transactions, there might be erroneous transactions in small amounts or fictitious transactions in the small amounts in the particular payments. So let's say I am telling you that I will pay 1 million to one party. You see this amount, you say, okay, pay it. Now you're not asking me that what constitutes or what adds up to 1 million. If you see that there might be some transaction where a fictitious supplier listed, so you might get it. If this particular risk is not checked, what will be the impact? I am paying a person I'm not supposed to pay, or the company is losing money just because of my negligence, right? So what should be the recommendation here? The recommendation should be that the finance director should review all transactions prior to payment. Okay, as part of this, the finance director should agree to the amounts paid to each and every person from the bank statement, that whether that the amount that I approved is the amount specifically paid to them or not. There is no duplication or unfamiliar names or transactions made to the people that might not be paid. Let's say I am saying that I have to pay Mr. A 1000. Now bank statement says, for bank statement I'm writing BS, it says Mr. A got 1200. So if the finance director checks the transactions, he will be able to do what? He will be able to identify the discrepancy here, and he will be basically telling the other party why is there a difference of 200. He will be able to investigate that. He will be able to investigate that. So it will be easier for the finance director to basically cope up with the inefficiencies of the management. Now, test of control will be whether the finance director checks the particular transactions fully. If he is, there is going to be signature by him. And if he is checking the payments of the people after the bank transfer has been made, a signature will be there as well with him. So both of the cases will help us in identifying the particular transactions. Now, next thing, Delhi company incurs a lot of petty cash expenditure. So petty cash expenditure as is at its height. And the finance department maintains a petty cash float of $500, which is kept in the safe. Okay. Now, it is used for making any sundry purchase by the company. When staff wishes to purchase sundry items, the required sum of cash is given to the staff member who signs it. The staff member is required to return any excess amount to the finance department, but there is currently no requirement for a receipt. Okay. Now, this is like saying someone that please go to the market. I'm giving you $1,000 or $500, and go buy something for me. And whatever the change is, please give it to me. Now tell me one thing, if something is there in the market for 600 and the other party sees that I will not ask for a receipt, he will basically say that it was $700 or $750. Obviously, if you're giving opportunity to the other party, he will capitalize it. So if you're not asking for a receipt, this will result in a what? This will result in a fraud or theft of money. The other party might tell you that something is expensive and it might not be as expensive as they are depicting it to be. So a petty cash receipt is required at all times. So why is it a risk? This is a risk because the purchases made might be fictitious, might be non-business, might be overstated. So this will result in a misappropriation of funds. This is the risk and the impact. Now, what should I apply as a control? My control should be that petty cash should be maintained in a way that the borrowing is done in written form and the amount taken back or any kind of receipts and payment are documented punctually. If a person is asking for money, he should first give me a receipt of the transaction that he has made. And once he has made a transaction, he should give me a receipt, and then after later on I will issue the money. If you're issuing them the money first, there is a higher chance that they might not return the excess money back to you in the fullest form. Okay, and a finance director, finance member should basically cross verify any kind of transactions or reconcile petty cash by the particular invoices that he receives, so that he can check whether the opening balance and the closing balance equals when he adds the particular receipts or invoices in the balance of the particular payroll. So, sorry, petty cash. Let's say we have a balance of 200 here. So if I get invoice number one at 70, invoice two as 130, invoice three at 100. So the ending balance is 500, right? So I can say yes, my opening balance was 500, and yeah, I have added up the invoices, and it comes up to be total of 500. Now, there are still chances that there might be some kind of expenses that are the invoices might be inflated. There is a risk there as well. But the main objective of control is to mitigate the risk. It cannot eliminate the risk. Elimination is an impossible thing to do here. Okay. Now, if I have applied a control, what should be my recommendation to, or what should be my test of control? My test should be that I am taking a sample of petty cash transaction and checking them whether there was a reconciliation conducted or not. If there was a reconciliation, it would have been approved, signed by a senior, and the invoices are present and recorded in the books of accounts of petty cash. So this will also give me a good point to basically develop an answer. Now, moving on to the last paragraph of this question. Now, the cashier reconciles the main current account on a monthly basis as this contains the highest level of activity, and reconciles the remaining three bank accounts every 3 months. So you see that the cashier is doing a very, what we can say, unstable policy being applied. We are seeing a very unstable policy being applied. He is checking one account on monthly basis and other are checked after 3 months. So the reconciliation are reviewed by the finance director who evidences the review. Now he is checking the financial reconciliations, but they're done after 3 months. So reconciliation should not be done after 3 months. They should be done on a monthly basis or a weekly basis. Okay? If we are giving too much time, the fraud and errors might go unnoticed. Heavy number of transactions pile up. When heavy number of transactions pile up, at the end of the day, what we are facing is that we are not going to be able to cope up with the pressure, and we just go through the transactions and we miss out the errors and fraudulent transactions. So every bank reconciliation should be done on a weekly or monthly basis so that all transactions are checked, verified for fraud and errors. Now, this would be a recommendation that bank reconciliation should be done on a weekly basis. The senior manager, the finance director, should not just check the amounts or review the amounts. He should basically recalculate the reconciliation, and he should signature initial it that he has checked it and reviewed the particular transactions. Now, if it is reviewed and checked by the finance director, we can basically take a sample of reconciliations and make sure the signature is there, and it is done on monthly basis. So I believe this is the first question that we have done for test of controls. I believe that everyone is getting the point on how to develop a particular risk, how to develop an objective, how to write a recommendation and a test of control for particular test of controls. Okay, now I am going to give you the opportunity to ask the questions that you have regarding the particular scenarios. Please type them in the chat box and we'll discuss them. Okay, I'll be typing one of the deficiencies, one of the particular tests that we have discussed, and one of the recommendations that we have discussed, so that you get a good idea on how to write the particular area. Okay. Okay. Now the first one was deficiency. Deficiency. Now try to first of all bold your headings up. If you're writing, make the headings prominent at all times. Okay. make the headings prominent at all times, that if you're writing the particular point, the examiner should know that you're writing this point. Okay. So the first deficiency that we identified was that we are not checking the data. The data is not checked. Okay, the data is not checked for the payroll where the particular data is transferred from the key card to the payroll systems. Transfer of data not checked. Okay, so if transfer of data is not checked here, this is the main streamline here. Now, what was the main area was that at the time, or at the end of each week, at the end of each week, the data of employees worked hours are transferred from the key card to the payroll records. Okay, this was the statement mainly. Okay, this was the statement. And what was the problem in the statement? The problem statement was that the system is automated. The system is automated, due to which the transactions are not checked. This was the statement. Okay, one statement is present in front of me. Now, what was the problem? The problem. Why is it a problem? The problem is in front of you. Why is it a problem that we have to write? Now, as there is no check of the data, there might be a situation where the data contains error. Okay, now we have given them an indication that the data might be transferred. In the transfer, there might be errors. Okay, so what will be the impact here if there is error? This could result in an under or overpayment to the employees. That will create a situation where the employee might not trust your system. If the employee is not trusting your system, basically you are losing the goodwill within the employees. So, and result in a loss of goodwill, or loss in credibility of the accounting systems by the employee. Loss of trust in the systems by the employees. Okay, so this is a deficiency. Now this is more than enough for 1 mark. And remember that do not try to just replicate what I have written. I am writing under open circumstances. This can be achievable under the marking criteria. Now, if we are looking at the examination, we have approximately 1.8 minutes for 1 mark. So under 2 minutes, I can write this point if I'm not explaining it. I'm just drafting it. Okay. Next step is our deficiency is gone. Now recommendation, controlled recommendation. Now for controlled recommendation, what can be a recommendation here? That the transfer of hours from the key card to the payroll department should be monitored by a senior official and checked by the particular person and evidenced by signature. Okay, so the transfer process of the particular data from the key card to the payroll records should be monitored and checked now. This is the area where we have basically drafted a complete answer on test of controls. Now, okay, if you're asking for the first part, look, the first part is just a knowledge-based question, so you can just draft it from the notes. You can take it from the notes and just uh, write it in your own words. There's not a lot of explanation or a drafting required for that area. Okay, so we'll take a short break right now. Okay, we'll take a short break in which we are just going to I'm going for prayer, and after the break, we will continue with our substantive procedures. So we'll be back within the it's approximately 6:15 in Pakistani time. We'll be back in next 10 minutes. So 6:25 Pakistani time, we'll be back and we'll continue with our next area of practice. So see you then. I'll be waiting for you guys. Okay. So now today's session is focusing on substantive testing, mainly drafting questions. Okay. Now, many people are facing a difficulty in substantive testing. Many people are having a difficulty when they are thinking of substantive testing. They are not able to grasp the idea that where to start and where to end, where to go about, and how do we basically write points or draft points, or how do we go about the layout of the answer, where to start and where to end. Okay, so in this question, I'll be trying to give you the techniques of the particular drafting, and I'll try to giving you the particular techniques of how to formulate an answer, what areas to focus and what areas to basically go towards the end. What are the likely pointers that the examiner likes, and what are the pointers that the examiner generally negates, or a person, if I'm a teacher, if I'm a person who's instructing someone to write an answer, what are the pointers that I would not want a student to write? And what would it indicate? Okay. Now, at the end of the day, please try to understand one thing, that the person sitting in front of you, he is a human too. Okay. And when he's checking your answers, he is basically developing a perception for yourself, right? A perception is there in the mind when they are basically seeing the transactions happening or the answers coming. So if an examiner sees that you are writing some pointers that are very common, can be applied anywhere, what does he see? He sees that the student is unable to write an answer. He is not being able to draft the answer. He is going for the last resort. He don't have any enough practice. He doesn't have enough understanding of this particular topic. So he is just thinking that you don't know anything, and you're just trying to write pointers for the sake of writing only to complete the answer. So if I also get the indication that the student doesn't know something, I will mark them lower, and it will affect my overall examination as well. So your idea should be, your practice should be that when you're writing an answer, go for unique points. Go for points that are very, we can say, uh, effective, by the meaning of that they are very strictly constrained to the scenario that is given. So the examiner sees that yes, you were prepared for the scenario, you knew what to do, and you were able to draft good pointers from this particular area. So for substantive testing, normally what happens is we'll read the question first, and I'll give you some of the areas that I would want to discuss. Now, first of all, here we are given three parts. This is approximately 15 marks question, and 15 marks are strictly prone towards substantive testing. Now, first area says describe substantive procedures the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in relation to imposed vehicle addition and disposal. Second is focusing on valuation of trade receivables. Third is focusing on audit evidences in relation to potential breach of transport regulation. Now, transport regulation basically indicating towards what? They're indicating towards provisions. Okay. So provision is one of the area. One is IFRS 9, basically ECL, and one is non-current assets. Normally, we can say that IAS 16. So IFRS 9, IAS 37, and IAS 16. Three areas are applied here. Now, when you're writing a substantive procedure, what should be the layout? The layout should be that first of all, you should write the action. What are you going to do? With that, write the source document that you're going to perform the action on. Okay. The source document, by that I mean that, let's say we are having a particular system here. Let's say we are working in a way that I'm going to check. Check is the action. The car's engine. The source is the engine. The objective, the area that I am performing the task on. I'm checking the car's engine. Okay. And now, why am I checking it? That is also a thing that you have to tell them, right? If you're checking something, you're not doing it out of enjoyment. You're doing it for a particular purpose. So the last point will be purpose. Why are you doing this? Or what it verifies, or what it tells, what it verifies, what it tells, etc. etc. Okay, so action, then go to the source, then what it verifies or what it tells you about. Okay, so if you're not being able to interpret and analyze, understand that the action, the source, and the particular purpose, you're not going to be able to craft a good answer. Okay. Now, when you're writing the substantive procedure, the first area of focus is obtaining information. Now, whenever you're writing an answer, I would recommend you guys first try to obtain information through discussions, obtaining schedules, breakdowns, obtaining reconciliation documents, etc. etc. So, commonly, what we should first write is try to obtain more information from the management. Okay, so obtaining is the first part, obtain info. Okay, now second focus should be checking the info through multiple procedures, and procedures are Cairo basically. So checking information is the second part. Now, what are the weaker points that we should basically try to avoid? Try to avoid is, I'm writing the avoiding points in red. Management representation. Okay, these are the points that, by avoid I mean that do not write them in the first 2 to 3 points. If are asking you for 5 marker question or 6 marker question, try to go for these points at a last point, second last point, last point. Disclosure. These are the points that are commonly available in vast of the particular substantive procedure in multiple IS and IFRS. So if you see them available in multiple IS and IFRS, that means they are commonly used. So the examiner might want you to basically use them at the last point, at the end, so that he sees that yes, you have the skill first. Now, if you're writing, the placement is also important. If you're writing these points before, let's say the first point is obtain information, second point goes for management representation letter or disclosure. Take the disclosure or management representation letter. He will basically develop a mindset that you don't know what to write next. You're not structured. First, try to show off your skills. Show them that you know what substantive procedures are, what are the accounting treatments, what should we do. We know that. First, tell them we know what to do. Then, secondly, go for the areas that are important in terms of IS and IFRS and can be commonly used. So, first go for specific points, then go for general points. If you're not able to write some more specific points, okay, the more specific you are in your answers, the better it is for your answer drafting. Okay, now let's go towards, first of all, your first para. Now, what are they telling us? They are telling us that Incor is a company that we are auditing. You are audit supervisor of Velo & Co. and you are working on the final audit of Incor & Co. 38 April 2005. Incor company is a waste management company supplying services to a variety of governmental and business organizations. Incor company drafted profit is 5.3 million and total assets are 40.1 million. Okay, and 2004 was to 33.9 million. Now, okay, they have given you a profit before tax and total assets. Now, one thing to keep in mind that if they have given you profit before tax and total assets, why have they done that? They have done that basically because in the later parts, in a 5 marker question, you will be getting a decision on audit opinion. To develop a habit of writing or first making out the materiality, identify the materiality first. Apply the benchmarks and percentages and identify the amount of materiality. If you develop this habit, it will be easier for you. You will have a practice in it. And the 5 marker question will be easier for you. Okay. Now, next step, they're saying the specific area that we have to perform substantive procedures on. Now, here they're saying on 1st February 2005, Incor company replaced 20 of its recycling vehicles. The old vehicle had a carrying amount of 1.8 million. Okay. One thing. Now they have given us a disposal. Okay, they have given us disposal. Now, if there's a disposal, How do we get a disposal? Now, disposal is done through basically selling an asset. Now, please go for the IFRS or the accounting treatment. What should be the accounting treatment first? If basically I'm selling something, I will first of all see what is the carrying amount. How do I get a carrying amount? Carrying amount is basically cost minus accumulated depreciation, right? Now, if they have told you that there is a carrying amount of 1.8 million, first of all, you will check whether the carrying amount is correct or not. Okay, they are giving you the 1.8 million, right? So you have to check whether the particular carrying amount is correct or not. First thing to go for. Okay. Now, if we are selling something for selling, does it go out of our organization? Yes. Should its accumulated depreciation be removed from our books? Yes. Should it be removed from our register of assets or fixed asset register? Right? Now, if you have sold something, you would have gotten money, right? So if you have sold something, we would have gotten money. So double entry normally is bank or cash debit and asset credit. Okay. Now this is just the preliminary. I have read one line. I'm giving you the preliminary areas that we should focus on. We should see. Now these might be filtered out later on when we see the main areas. But now the first thinking is what are the areas to focus on? Double entries is the area. Removal of the fixed asset register, accumulated depreciation, carrying amount checking is one of the areas. Okay. Now let's read forward. What are you telling us next? Next, they're telling us that as recorded in the non-current asset register were given in part exchange. So it is exchanged in exchange of a new vehicle of 4.6 million. Cash consideration of 3.9 million was also paid. So in this situation, what is happening is that we have given one of our vehicles. Okay, we have given or 20 of our vehicles. Okay, we have 20 of our vehicles have been sold and they're sold for 1.8 million. And basically, we are having new vehicles bought for 4.6 million. So we are paying 3.9 million. Now let's go to the accounting here. Now here this double entry is invalid for us. Why? Because we are disposing an asset, but we're taking an asset in exchange. So remove this asset, remove this double entry. Now instead of this, we will write that we are having a part exchange. For part exchange, what should be double entry? Double entry should be asset debit. The asset is of higher value, that is of 4.6 million. Now we are giving an asset away as well, so asset credit as well. By how much? 1.8 million. Then we are paying more. We are paying more. What is the amount that we are paying? We are paying approximately 3.9 million. Now we're paying how much? 3.9 million. Yes. We are paying 3.9 million. Now see one thing that you have to see here. What is that we have to see here? We have to see that we are having this adds up to how much? 3.4.9 and 5.6. I can clearly see that the value of the particular amount am I paying and the asset I'm giving is higher than the asset I'm purchasing, right? So I am seeing that we have a particular problem here, that we are giving an asset, we are paying an amount, and we are buying something at which we are having a loss, right? So we are having a loss here. How we are having a loss here is that I am taking something of 4.6. Okay. For that, I am paying 3.9, right? I am paying 3.9. So if I subtract 4.6 from 3.9, I get 0.7. Okay. The asset that I'm purchasing is 0.7 and I have the asset that I'm giving in exchange is 1.8. In simple terms, if I add both of them, they are coming to be 5.7. I'm giving things worth of 5.7 and taking off 4.6. So I'm having a loss of 1.1. So the problem here is not that I am having a loss of 1.1. The problem is that have you calculated and recorded the loss of 1.1 accurately or not? That is the thing that we have to record. So if there is a loss, how do we record it? We record it on the debit side of our liabilities. So P&L debit by 1.1 million should be a double entry also present with us. This will balance our double entries. Okay. Now, for further calculations, what we can do is we can recalculate the depreciation for the asset that we are selling. Right? If you're selling an asset, we have to check the particular depreciation because we are having a carrying amount derived from that. We have calculated the depreciation first. We have checked the accumulated depreciation. We have recorded that we have basically had a loss, and we have had a loss. We have recorded that as well. We have removed the assets from our particular books that were sold, the 20 old vehicles. Now, if we are having 20 more vehicles or another vehicles, we have to add them in a fixed asset register, right? Now, what else can we do here is, now here we can basically see that if we are having assets that we have disposed of, if you are having that assets that we have disposed of, the disposed of assets would be used for a substantial time, would have been used for us. Okay, we are using them, so they will have a useful life, right? So based on the estimation of the useful life, we will basically see what is the useful life of our current assets, right? We can also check the depreciation rate that we should charge for adequacy. And are we charging adequate depreciation rate or not? Right? Now, all of these points, if we start to draft them, this will be easily 7 to 8 points for us. Okay. Now, how can we write a point? Now, first I have told you to obtain information. So obtain a schedule of additions or obtain the schedule or the fixed asset register and verify that changes have been adequately disclosed or made there. The additions have been added and subtractions has been done there. For the part exchange of the assets, this can be one of the points. Okay. I can physically physically inspect my assets. I can check the ownership documentations for rights and obligation. Right? All of these things can be checked by me. So I can basically go and first of all check that I have physically the assets present in my organization that I bought new. I can basically recalculate the profit and loss on disposal and check whether they are recorded in the profit and loss statement adequately or not. I have paid 3.9 million. So payment is done by bank. The bank statement. So for statement, I'm writing state. For bank statement, I have basically paid 3.9 million. I can check the bank ledger that I have paid the 3.9 million to the particular party. Then for depreciation, confirm the depreciation is removed or charged to the particular fixed asset register and accumulated depreciation is removed from there. Recalculate the carrying amount of the asset with the accumulated depreciation subtracted from the cost. Okay, so with this, we can easily write 7 to 8 points. 7 to 8 points is very easy for us in this particular area. The first area that we have to focus is that you have to basically apply the accounting treatment. If you're not applying the accounting treatment, you cannot pass substantive procedure testing or substantive procedure answer. Substantive procedure will only focus on first area, that is accounting policies. If you are having good grip on it, you will pass this exam. And one thing that is there is disclosure as well. Okay, you see that I have gone towards the objective area first. For first area that I'm going for is the accounting treatment, the recording of transactions, disposal recordings. Then at the end, I'm going for physical inspection, ownership documentation, disclosures. So these are the points that are generally there in every non-current asset question. So I am keeping them for the last options form, so that the examiner sees that yes, I have adequately applied the particular substantive procedures on the particular case. Okay. So I believe that everyone is clear on this, and now we'll move forward to second area. Second area focuses on valuation of receivables. Now, when commonly, what happens when we are seeing that there is a valuation question coming to us? Now, valuation for anything. One hint is in impairment. Impairment is one of the biggest hint that we have in valuation of trade receivables, building, or even inventory. By impairment, we mean that reduction in the value of the asset due to unforeseen circumstances. Okay. So if you're talking about impairment is due to what are the hints of impairment, indicators of impairment. Indicators can be slow moving, late payments, slow movements of inventory, damage. There can be some indication that a person is sick. For receivable purposes, we can see the person is sick. He is not being in a position to pay his processes. His business is going in a loss, etc., etc. So indicators give us what? Indicators gives us a hint that what should be the accounting treatment. In normally our valuation of trade receivables, we can write a point that is expected credit loss. That is also known as bad debts. You have to record bad debts. And bad debts can be identified if we get a hint from the market that a person might not be able to pay us. So a provision is kept here for the particular area so that we are having a true and fair value of the particular trade receivables. Let's read the case first, and then I'll give some pointers for it. Now, Encore company credit controller left the company in January, okay, and has only recently been replaced. So he has left the company in January, and we are here standing on 1st of July. So it has been a substantial time, right? So it has been substantial time. That means there might be miscalculation. There might be situations where people are not being followed up regarding some of the areas. Okay. Now on the trade receivable collection period increased from 49 days to as at 31 December. So increased from 49 days to 66 days. So 49 and 60 days, 6 days has substantial change. If the value, if the days are increasing, what does it mean? This is the indicator. I'll just write with the separating. Okay. Okay. Now, increase in days mean that our particular people are paying us on a later date. Now, longer the period that people take to pay, higher chances are they're not going to pay. So, increased provision of bad debt. Increased receivable period means people are going to take longer. So there's a higher chance they might not pay us. So we have to keep that in mind. Now remember that substantive procedure do not focus on checking the situation. They are checking whether the situation is correctly accounted for or not. So our only objective is that have we accounted it correctly or not. Okay. Now what else they are telling us is year-ended trade receivable amount to 9.1 million. Last year it was 7.1 million. Now year-end trade receivable balance higher means we are not getting money. So slow movement of receivable. The receivables are not paying us. This is a bad indication for the company. We can have liquidity issues as well. Now, an allowance for credit loss receivable of 182,000 is there, and last year it was 142,000. That means it has increased as well. The position doesn't seem to be good. Now, if you have to focus on valuation, first of all, what did I tell you? To obtain information. Now, what can be the piece of document that we can focus to obtain information that will give us an indication that the account receivable or trade receivable might be slow moving or correct or higher, etc., etc. Document can be age receivable analysis, aging of receivable, age receivable analysis, obtain age receivable analysis. Why obtain it? This obtaining of this document will help us in doing what? Analyzing what the situation is. getting to know what the situation is. If I'm able to analyze what situation is to identify slow moving people, if I identify slow moving people, I will just ask the credit controller who is currently there in the organization that what are you doing to basically take the money from them, or is there a chance that the allowance might increase or decrease, what is the situation here. Now if we are having more slow moving balances, that means the account allowance for credit losses or expected credit losses are substantially increasing. We have a hint of increase. Okay, so we have to account for that. Next thing, now if after the year end we are having subsequent receipts, we have to account for that as well. Now what are subsequent receipts? Subsequent receipts are basically receipts of payments or people paying us after the year end. If someone's paying us after the year end, that means basically we are getting the money that we thought we might not. So if you have recorded a provision for it, now it is wrong. If you have written off some amount, you have basically said that now I will not get this amount back. You are wrong about it. So you have to basically do what? You have to remove that allowances or recover or replace that amounts. You have to recover them back. You have to write them those amounts back. So this gives us indication that the account receivable are correct, valued accurately or not. Now moving forward, we can see do what is, if we are seeing that trade receivables are fluctuating, they are significantly increasing. This is a concerning situation, because if trade receivables amount is not recovered from customers, it would lead to a liquidity issue and a going concern issue as well. So the board minutes are to be read by us, because it will give us indication about the allowance to be recorded. Now we have to record basically a provision. A provision is an estimate. An estimate is based on facts and figures. So facts can be derived from the minutes of the meeting. The minutes of meeting will help us in understanding that whether we should basically improve the provision, increase the provision, or decrease the provision. Now we will do one thing more, is we will see whether the particular amount, the people are that are coming under the aging. Aging has multiple categories, right? It has 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, 90 to 120, etc. So if we are seeing that a person is falling under 90 to 120 days, we will discuss with the management that whether normally he stays in this criteria, he pays us or not. If normally he has the pattern of paying in 90 to 120 days, we are not going to account him for a better provision. We are not going to say that this might be a bad debt. This is not a bad debt. A bad debt is an amount that is unusual for us. That a person who pays normally in 30 to 60 days has not paid us now till 90 to 120 days. So now this is a problematic situation for us. Okay, this is a problematic situation for us. Now what else can we do is, we can basically respond to the customers. We can send a confirmation letter to the customers. We can ask the customers that when are you going to pay them, or what is the situation of the transaction that you are having. If you have any disputes, let us know, etc., etc. So we're trying to do what? We're trying to go to the base that why are the payments being delayed. Are they because they have gone bankrupt, bad debt, or are they going to pay us, they are holding it due to a dispute, or are they not willing to pay us at all, etc., etc. Any kind of position that is there, we have to shed light on that. Okay, so we have to basically identify the rationale of maintaining an allowance, that is for same level or higher level or whatever the level that we are on. Okay, so double entries can be there. Double entries for provision of bad debt can be recorded. So if the numbers are not given to us in terms of provision recording, we can also write a point that we can check the general ledgers for recognition of bad debts and the amounts to be written down for allowances, so that we have a true and fair picture for it, right? So these all are important for us, and at the end we can write a point for disclosure. But disclosure, it doesn't exactly focus on valuation, so it is not prescribed that you write a particular provision point, disclosure point in this particular area, because the valuation is the main part that we have to focus on. If you want to check the value of it, we'll discuss it with the particular party that when are you going to pay us. If they say we are not going to be able to pay us, we have to reduce the value. If we see that there are many slow moving people, many people are not in a position to pay, so we'll write down our overall receivables. If we see that there is a position that we have a conflict between two parties, that means we are not going to be able to basically get the money back soon enough. If we have an age receivable analysis, we can recalculate the age receivable and we can recalculate the irrecoverable balances, so that we have a basic understanding of what amounts are not to be paid and what amounts can be paid. If we get a history, we can basically take the past and apply it in the present situation to see whether this has been a continuous pattern or a new pattern for our organization. So with all of these, we can increase or decrease the value of our trade receivables and write substantive procedure on them. Now moving towards the last area, that is basically auditor should perform to obtain, we should perform substantive procedure to obtain audit evidence in relation to potential breach of transport regulations by INCOR. So transport regulations by INCOR are basically breached. Now, if you're breaching a regulation, what will be there? A penalty. Okay, a penalty might come up your way. Now, here there is a situation that there is a potential situation. Now, if there is a fine given to you, that means you have a loss. But here there is no fine, but you have breached a transport regulation potentially. That means there is a chance here. There is a chance here. Now, where we have a chance, there is a chance we might not be fined. There is a chance we might be fined, and how much to be fined is not the certain amount here. So we have to be very careful here that what is the amount that we should write down. Now, let's read the case first so that we get a better idea. In March 2005, a former employee of Incor company made complaint to Transport Authority alleging that Incor company has breached a regulation concerning maximum driving hours and compulsory rest breaks for drivers of equipment. The Transport Authority has launched an investigation. So investigation can go in our favor or against us as well. So we have to keep in mind the worst case scenario and the best case scenario as well. Okay. Now, but the directors of Incor company are not intending to disclose this issue or make any provision, and they do not believe that the potential fine, which is $50,000 per breach, is material. Okay, they are not taking this seriously. Now, this is the opening for us. This is the opening for us that this particular situation, is it serious? We have to check whether the directors are doing right or not. Okay, are they recording it correctly or not? They are responding it to correctly or not? So what can we do is, first of all, now look, if you're having a legal case, who comes in? A lawyer comes in. So first of all, we'll try to do what? We will see that what is the domain, what is the significance of this scenario? Is it serious enough or not? By how do I know this? First of all, I will see what is the number of complaints that we are having. What is the correspondence, or what is the claim from the other party? If someone is filing a case against us, there is a claimant party, right? The claimant parties, their claims are to be discussed. We have to see what did they claim against us, what was the fine they are basically proposing, what have they told us. By the discussion, we will get an indication that whether this fine is likely to happen or not likely to happen. Is it a discussion only, or is it a open warning for us, or open chance for penalty for in the future, near future? Okay, so we have to first of all identify or review the correspondence with the third party. Then the legal counsel comes in. We will discuss it with the legal counsel that this particular claim is against us. What are the chances that we might be having a fine and we have to pay for it? This is the thing that we have to ask them. They will give us an indication that this is possible, probable, or virtually certain that we have to pay them. Based on that, we can record a provision, or we can record a contingent liability, or we record a liability as a whole in our financial statements. So we have to check that. Now, the claim is that we are violating they have given a specific violating the maximum driving hours. So you can do what? You can basically see that what are the records that we have for driving hours, and see actually whether we are breaching this law or not, and determine the likelihood that the breach is going to result in a fine for us. So you're checking your internal documents. Action is check your internal documents or review your driving records to check. Now we are doing on the action is review on the sources driving records to check. What are we trying to check? We are trying to check whether the particular claim against us is likelihood to cause a particular fine on us or not. Okay. Now what are we going to do next is we're going to basically see the likelihood of situations. We are going to review the board minutes of meeting. We are going to see what are the situations happening after the year end. If the particular verdict comes in place where we are going to be paying the particular fine, we have to review that whether we have to pay the fine or not in the future. Now here we have a provision, right? Now we want to know what is a certain thing that has happened. Now if after the year end we are paying the fine, we are going to pay through the bank account. If we are paying it through the bank account, we will have a bank print there. A bank statement will give us an indication that we have paid this amount. So the actual paid amount can be basically compared with a provision if we are recording any. so that we can see whether we were accurate or not. Now the management is taking this too lightly. If they're taking it too lightly, now look, understand one thing, that when something doesn't seem logical to you, it doesn't mean it is wrong. It means you have to obtain understanding of it. So if the management is saying that this is not material, so ask the directors that why are they considering this immaterial, and why are you not disclosing it? If they're saying it is immaterial, so what is the situation? Please obtain information from them that why are they considering this immaterial, and see the fact that advise them that this is material or not. Tell them this is material or not, because this is a place where disclosure is important for us. This is a important factor for the shareholders to know, not only because of the particular fine, but also because of non-compliance. And non-compliance with laws and regulations can lead to a strike towards the company, can lead to a closure of the company itself, right? So what can be the pointers there? Correspond with the claimant party, correspond with the authorities, that what can be the future potential issues for us if this particular potential non-compliance is having any other repercussions other than financial. Obtain that information as well. Discuss with the management that why are they not recording a provision. Discuss with the legal counsel that what is the potential situation, that what is the likelihood that we might have a particular fine to be paid and the particular breach is proven against us, so that we can record a payable. After the year end, compare the payable that we have recorded with the actual amount paid, to get an indication that whether we were correct or not, or we need to amend the financial statements or not. Other than that, we can basically obtain written representation from the directors, that the directors are saying that yes, you were not aware of this particular breach and you are not aware of any other breaches. Now in provision, one common point that you can write is, in provisions, obtain management representation. Obtain, you can write this point, and this might be considered a good point. Obtain management representation regarding what? Regarding any other breaches they know about. Why? This will basically give us a point that we can write. We can say that yeah, if they know any other breaches that they are having in their mind, if they have any indication that there are any other breaches, then we should record a provision for that as well. So if they know about it, they should tell it to us, so that we can basically record a provision and our financial statements are true and fair, in a true and fair position, right? So all of these points accumulate up and give you a very good answer for substantive testing. So the ideology is, I'm repeating it again, write specific points. Go for action, source, and purpose. First, focus on IS and IFRS, then go for generalized points. Generalized points means legal areas, rights and obligations, physical verification, other things like that. Okay. Go for the weaker points at the end. Give a show off of your skills to the examiner and be specific to the scenario. The more specific you are to the scenario, the more calculation based, the accounting based you are writing your substantive procedures to be, the better they are in nature. So I'll be taking any questions if there are any by someone. So we'll wait. Okay, after the questions, we have nothing much to be left at. Substantive procedure, we have solved one question and we have solved some other questions as well. I hope this session was fruitful for you guys, and I will be following up for more sessions like these only to assist you guys in mainly drafting of substantive procedures. Mainly, if I'm writing all the provisions, all the substantive procedure, all the answers in front of you, it is ineffective because you're not thinking, you're just reading what I'm writing. So I would not be wasting the time in just writing all the answers. I will be giving you the model answers in the WhatsApp group that we have made specifically for the guidance of all the students, that is free in nature. So join the WhatsApp group and you can get the access to the drive where all these drafted answers are there. From the video, the main purpose of watching this particular session should be that you should be able to understand how to deal with the question. Okay, understand how do we drive a question, how do we basically go for the accountant treatment and go for other areas. So your main objective of this session should be that you are trying to understand the techniques of the answer drafting. Okay, so techniques are here and the drafted answer will be provided to you in the WhatsApp group. Okay, so with this we end our session for today. Hope to see you guys in the next session that will be conducted soon enough. Till then, enjoy learning. Allah Hafiz.